Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good
Are you
morning.
there? Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I am doing great. It's Wednesday again. This is becoming like my favorite day of the week just because of our sessions that we get to do together. Can you hear me okay? I'm
Sorry.
excited about this one. As usual, our topics, I think,
Mm-hmm.
are really resonating. We're getting good comments from our audience,
Mm-hmm.
and we appreciate those comments. So please keep them coming. And so
Absolutely.
today's topic is all about generating high quality leads on a budget. And I think that generating leads is, of course, so basic to the need of keeping the business running, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we can make ourselves crazy and get overwhelmed because our budgets might be small or non-existent, and we're stressing ourselves out as business owners trying to figure out how can we do this on a what used to be called a shoestring budget.
Right.
uh, and so I think what we've put together in terms of the tips today is really designed to help you, our audience, kind of reconfigure the framework of some of the things we've already been discussing
Mm-hmm.
in other sessions. And if you're joining us for the first time, then this is probably going to be a little new for you. But it's really all about, bringing powerful ideas and tools, right, to the table
Mm-hmm.
that are budget friendly. So
That's
with that, I guess we can kind of dive right in to
Mm-hmm.
the three tips.
Yeah, that sounds good. So I do like this format because I think sometimes you need to start a couple things to get going while you start to hone them when you're, early in business or you're launching a new service or you're sort of refocusing on things. So I like this one as well. So I'll do tip number one. So what I think that no, the first thing to think about, especially well at any point, is like content marketing machine. Like how do you become a content marketing machine without a machine budget? So when you think about it, it does kind of when you see people out there, it, what I'll say is in everything that you do, it all supports other stuff, right? So if I'm talking to you at an event or, somehow you sent me an email as a sales prospect or there's something happening, what I see you doing online becomes more important. So to me, content marketing can be about reaching new people, but I think it's equally about um, nurturing a possible sales connection and also sales referrals. So, I'll run through a couple examples, but just like an example of how it would work is, let's say you and I met somewhere somehow, right? We don't really know each other, but we have sort of this professional understanding. We connect on LinkedIn. I start to see what you do. I see how you helped other people. Then either I might be interested or I might know people who are interested. And because I know you or I feel like I've met you a little bit, I'm much more likely. People, it's not hard to find solutions or services, but it's hard to find one you feel more comfortable with early on. So
Yeah.
that's where I just think you're bridging the gap with content to make a connection and build that relationship earlier than you would be able to otherwise. So I don't know if you've seen that, but suddenly you see somebody, you're like, they do that and they seem good, and I know somebody who needs that. So,
Yeah, I think it is about credibility and
mm-hmm,
building that trust as early on as possible in the
mm-hmm,
relationship and really helping you to stand out as well.
Mhm.
from other people that are probably delivering something similar in terms of product or services,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that's really, really important.
Yeah. So
How do
here's go ahead.
how do you feel about say, say I'm on your LinkedIn profile and you've
Hmm.
got this really great conversation going back and forth on this interesting topic.
Hmm.
And how do you feel about me kind of bringing that back to my page on
Hmm.
LinkedIn and commenting on this discussion that's happening on your
Hmm.
page, trying to
Oh,
get
yeah.
engagement going with my followers,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And yet, I would certainly, probably put in a comment the link back to you, so
Hmm.
in case they wanted to see what it was all about,
Right. Right.
and read it for
No.
themselves.
Yeah, that would be that's like that's the ultimate, right? Is what want. And so, and I don't know if we've already delved into like LinkedIn more deeply. If not, we will. But
Yeah.
that's what LinkedIn's priority is: conversation. So any way it takes form, whether you jump in, you share, and start additional conversations, LinkedIn is actually going to reward me as a conversation starter, in
Mhm.
so many ways. So I think that's one of the obvious benefits. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a couple of things. I'll just run through three things that will help you do that early on. So one is there are free design tools, and we'll put the links in after. But Canva is one of them,
Mhm.
canva.com. There's a free package, and then the like the pro or starter one is still I think less than $10 a month. So it is the best design tool I think out there right now.
Yeah.
It has pre-sized templates for you for LinkedIn, for Facebook. So depending what you're doing, Instagram has a very special size structure that it likes for graphics. So it'll do those. You can copy and resize them for other platforms. You can create email headers, you can create PDF like sales sheets, so many things. So, number one thing, if you're a small business owner or a junior marketer, you need to get in there and start looking at how it can help you as quick as possible. One thing with the pro and the free tools is that you get access to stock images, like the
Yeah.
whole library. You could, I used to pay like $100 and so a month for Shutterstock access because we'd use those pictures all the time. Well, now it's all in one tool and it's quite inexpensive. So that's number one. And like I said, we'll put the links down there. So, number one, a tool like Canva, templates, elements, things you can reuse. You can set your brand colors, all that kind of stuff. They even can help with infographics, although I like to use different things for that sometimes. Um, so number two within that would be repurposing content, right? So we talked about that. So instead of, sitting down and creating 10 social posts, why don't you write a blog about answering a question that you know is out there? Maybe you have friends or previous sales experience and they're asking you questions. How does this work for blank? Could be a healthcare play. Like take their specific question and answer it. So the best thing that is you have something substantial. You can post that content to your site. You can put that on a LinkedIn newsletter. Like you can do a couple things with that. Once you have that done, well, then why don't you create 6 to 8 social posts, all leading to that blog, and then schedule them out over a longer period of time. And then next week, create your second one. And then you have another 6 that you can schedule out. So you have a rotation of ideas, but you're sending them all to this valuable content piece. So that's sort of the repurpose and content piece. So then the other one, I was just looking at the time here. I'm enjoying this tip number one.
No, you're
Uh,
fine.
and then the other one is user generated content, which is kind of, talked a little bit about like how do you and I work together to support each other as businesses? How can I encourage if you're a customer of mine or client of mine, how can I get you to mention or share my information? Maybe you'll just give me a little testimonial and then I can post that and tag you. And then you
Mhm.
might respond and say yes. And, how can you sort of get either the people that work with you to say something about your services, your business on their own or with your encouragement. Maybe you give them a graphic to use, right? Maybe they
Yeah.
need content, right? And you make it not so self-serving, but you make it like, they're sharing a solution, not, hey,
Yes.
I work with this person, but hey, here's something that was solved for me and I really, appreciate it, something like that. So looking at how user-generated content can be really authentic and very natural. So
Hmm.
that would be part of it. So anyway, that was I like that one. I like that, pulling that together. So tell me what you think
Yeah.
about, a second tip for these people looking to, get things going as fast as possible.
So this is not anything new or mind blowing, you know, but I think tip number 2 is social media engagement, and I
Mm,
am definitely going to do the air quotes for engagement.
right.
And the reason that I want to call that part of it out is there's so many Facebook groups that I belong to that are women business owner, oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And at least once a week, there'll be somebody that will say, hey, I need more likes. I need more followers. Here's my Instagram or Facebook link. Can you
Mm-hmm.
please? And in return, I will follow or like your page. And they call that like farming.
Right. Right.
And it really isn't benefiting you in
Mm-hmm.
as many ways as you think that it is. So
Right. Right.
you can really waste a lot of time,
Mm-hmm.
going to 100 people's
Yeah.
pages and liking or following to then never really re-engage or
Right.
engage to begin
Right.
with,
Mm-hmm.
on that. So really, as a business owner, it doesn't serve you in the way that you think that it might.
Mm-hmm.
But if you focus more on building the relationships,
Mm-hmm.
forget how many followers you have. Okay, so you have 5 followers.
Mm-hmm.
If all 5 of those followers are really engaged with you,
Right.
that's a gold mine
Right.
there,
And if they're
you know?
refers or potential clients, like that is going to grow in a specific way. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, yeah. So, how do you build those relationships? And so we've
Mm-hmm.
talked about this in the past, but people like to share their thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and their experiences. And so the more that you can engage them in doing that through controlled ways like surveys,
Right.
polls, um, quizzes, Q&A sessions,
Mm-hmm.
anything like that that really brings them in, gets them to say, this was my experience,
Mm-hmm.
and validate what they're talking about,
Right.
gives you, a chance to create conversations with those followers. It gives you a
Mm-hmm.
chance to really understand your audience and know what their needs are. And then, you can take all of that from those conversations
Mm-hmm.
and really start to build those additional posts and blogs and things of that are going to create this feeling that you're a thought leader in your space. So you
Mm-hmm.
really know what you're talking about, and that the people can rest assured, that there's credibility to what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying and feel comfortable in what you were talking about, referring
Right.
people or using you themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think along those lines, you can have contests
Mm-hmm.
to your target audience, and giveaways. Everybody likes a giveaway, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So create that sense of excitement in what
Mm-hmm.
you're providing in terms
Right.
of getting that engagement. And then when you do get that engagement, make sure that you are scheduling time to respond promptly,
Right.
to those reactions that are
Mm-hmm.
coming in on those posts. Don't just let them hang out there for days
Mm-hmm.
without engagement, but definitely say, if I post at 10 a.m., by 2 p.m., I'm going to check it and see if
Yeah.
anybody's commented and respond,
Mhm.
so you can kind of get it into your schedule without feeling like every 5 minutes you've got to
Right.
check to see if
Yeah.
anybody's responded.
That's why I like to have on my calendar sort of content days so that I can, because it's very disruptive if I'm trying to do bigger projects. Like I don't do that on certain days, but certain days I'll do content, but that means I'm a little more in tune to social responses so I can push engagement as much as possible. So I like that. It's a good one.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's it. It's all about being personable,
Mhm.
building that trust, right?
Yeah. And I had a thought you're like the like farming. I've seen it and I don't know about all the platforms how they're responding, but I do know I am pretty sure that I mean I know for sure that LinkedIn is, and I'm pretty sure the other platforms are right there as well. They want the conversation engagement. The likes are having less and less value. I mean, I think people like it, like no pun intended. People like feel good when you get the likes, but I don't think the social media platforms are really giving you visibility or doing things for you based on that anymore. So you might feel good about the likes, but the truth is the platform may not be expanding your reach like they
Yeah.
would if you actually generated a real conversation. So there's something about that at any small level, I think the platform will help you if you're getting a conversation started versus you getting likes because they know.
Yeah. And you know what? That's a good point because I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, probably as my primary
Hmm.
social
Makes sense. Yeah.
channel. And if I put something out there and I get the majority are just likes and
Hmm.
nobody's really commenting on it, I'm disappointed.
Hmm.
It's just
Hmm.
like it doesn't make me feel good. It
Right.
almost has the opposite effect on me.
Interesting. I think that's a good thing. Yeah.
It's
But
like, oh, I got all these likes, but nobody's commenting. Nobody's,
hmm, yeah.
engaging in the way that I really had hoped that they would.
Right.
And I know everybody's busy, and
Right.
it's hard to do that. So I do
Hmm.
appreciate the support. Yes, you can continue to like my comments,
Yeah.
please do, but
Right.
know that I'm also looking for more of that engagement. And
Hmm.
then I just thought of something else that might be relevant under engagement, and that is, LinkedIn is very big on, creating a newsletter.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's another way of really deepening
Yeah.
that engagement with your audience.
I really like their newsletter. Yeah.
Yeah, and to speak directly to them, talk about those, all of those things that you're learning
Hmm.
by being engaged with your audience, and create um, some newsletter content where you can pull from your blog, you can
Hmm.
pull from your social, and really give them something of value
Sure.
without asking for anything in return. And I
Hmm.
think that's huge, that give before get
Hmm.
mentality is
Yeah.
really where you can get the most benefit back.
Hmm. Absolutely. Very nice. Very nice. Cool.
So, tip number 3.
Yeah, this is the one I'm always most conflicted about, the power of email. So it really is not dead yet. I mean, there is a lot of success being seen with email. There are just so many like bad examples of email. It's not touchy, but it definitely evokes a lot of emotion from people when you talk about email marketing. So before I do a couple little tips within that, I'll share. Just this morning, I got an email from someone trying to sell me something, and it's probably the type of email I hate the most. But I did respond, and I'm curious. I think as a marketer and a small business owner, sometimes you like to see sales emails because you like to see how you felt when you read it, what their response is. Like you can learn a lot from
Yeah.
sales. People have their sequences, they have their next step planned out. You can learn a lot from that. And if something moves you and kind of intrigues you, well, use it. Like
Yeah.
write it for yourself. Like grab things. Like email is wide open, right? So I mean, if you see something, then think about how that was Sometimes it's the simple structure of the lines and the space and how
Yes.
it captures you very, pointedly. Sometimes it pulls you in. Just whatever it is, think about, how you felt or how you reacted. So the email this morning is, a couple of things. So when people are using massive lead generation companies, if you haven't noticed yet, what they'll do is they'll buy a domain that's like your website domain, but it's not, because they know that eventually they're going to run the risk of your domain getting spam alerts and being really penalized. So if you ever notice, for example, this one was the company, and then it was like, it was like, oh, it was success, blank company name success.com. So the company name was there, but it was a different domain. I went to see what their domain was, and their domain was just their name.co. So obviously I knew that this was a massive lead gen sales effort. And but not every, you may or may not know this as you see things, but then you start to be like, okay. And so that's one thing, is like, you can learn a lot from email structures. And all that tells me is it's a mass email effect. I don't begrudge them necessarily that, but maybe that's because I'm a marketer. But some people will be like, no, don't pretend that you're talking
Yes.
to me.
Yes.
So the other, the part two, which I have a big issue with. I still responded because I want to see how it goes. But the part is that they're pretending to want my services. I don't know if you've seen that, where someone pretends to want your services, but what they're doing is actually selling to you. And the problem is that they're probably using somebody or a team to do their marketing, their email marketing. And all that team cares about is booking meetings, getting replies. Like they're concerned about metrics that are quite irrelevant when you think about it. So I don't know if this makes sense, but when you engage a lead gen place that does email marketing, you have to understand your expectations. You have to understand what kind of message you want to get, because if all that person cares about is book meetings and get replies, sometimes there are deceptive methods to do it, which really only, in my opinion, hurt your brand.
Yeah.
And are really dangerous. So sometimes be careful what your goals are, because until you really know the company you're working with, it can be really, I think it can be damaging over time.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, I prefer much more small, targeted approach. So first of all, segmenting your audience. That's number one. So let's say you have 100 people, right? Their director of marketing, their CFO, their sales manager, their CEOs, their small business owner, whoever they are. Try to, either use that as an initial conversation, or try to even batch them into smaller groups. What if you knew that a CFO cares most about blank, and you segmented your audience to 25 people, and then you got it really much more honed in? So, I mean, just think of how you can segment for quality and for value. And I know it sounds a little overwhelming, because at some point, if you have, $1,000 or a couple of $1,000s for a lead gen company, you might want to do that, right? There's no risk to your domain. They're just going to go out and try to get a tiny percentage, and that might work for you too. But I really think segmentation can be the way to go as you're looking for long-term quality growth. So
I would add to that, if I might, that I think we as business owners need to pull back the expectations that the world is our oyster,
Yes.
and we have to go after everyone in order to be successful.
Yep.
Because time and time again, those that are successful in business will tell you that it is that targeted approach that really makes the difference. So 100% agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, if you tell me you can help everyone, I don't believe you. I mean, I just won't. I just will not believe you. Like, unless you're a cell phone carrier, right? Like, I understand maybe everybody can use it, but it just but it just doesn't really work. And as we look at services, so 100%. So the offer valuable content is the other piece. So, you got the sales pitch, you've got the other stuff, but if you have a sequence and different tools like HubSpot and stuff will let you do sequences of communications, right? So small batch of people, targeted titles or whatever brings them together as a segment. And then, tell them sort of what you do, but then along the way, offer them something that will help them. Hey, here's a PDF checklist next time you're exploring vendor relationships. Hey, here's an ebook for, content marketing that will help you blank, blank, blank. And to be honest, you don't really care if they grab those tools or not. You want them to know that you are capable of creating those tools. You have them. You're smart enough to use them. Like you just, that's less of a important than them saying, oh, I'm impressed, right? I get it. They have this thing. Or if I offer a resource about, I have a checklist for webinars, right? That just makes them realize it's something I can help them with, right?
Yeah.
That they didn't think I could help them with. So valuable content can be all kinds of things, but really genuinely think about the last time you helped a client. Give that tool to somebody, like help somebody, right? And that will increase your response and things like that. So I'd say the last piece is, is personalization within reason, right? So, and I make mistakes with this all the time. Like the last newsletter, I realized that we skipped a personalization and I sort of went broadly director of marketing. Well, the problem is if I call everybody a director of marketing, well, they're not, right? Some people might be a manager or sales and marketing. It just immediately sort of excludes people when you do that too much. So, stick with, the first name, have an alternate that might be like, I don't even say hi first name anymore. I just say first name because if I don't have your first name, which I almost always do, it'll just say hello, right? So how easy is that for me, right? Right. So D or hello. Simple, right? I don't want to overcomplicate my life. But, if I know the company they're with or the industry, those things can be really help because I can, especially if I'm targeting, right? So I've helped tech or professional services or whatever it is do this kind of stuff. Here's a case study that will might support you. Like that's a big deal. So that personalization within reason, right? Don't make it too hard for yourself, but you've got to make it smooth, especially if you're providing valuable content. Hey, here's a case study, a testimonial for somebody very similar to your blank industry, and make sure it's real, right? And then, share that information. It's very helpful. So,
and I find that everybody is, especially in a mid-sized organization or maybe a large organization, if you're trying to get business with them, everyone has their own set of goals and metrics to which they are measured, right? And things that they worry about. So if you're targeting a mid-sized company and the CEO there, their concerns and worries are going to be a lot different than the person in marketing, although they'll share some similarities in terms of what that overall brand is, reputation is out there and, how to work to better that. In that case, that's a shared kind of goal. But that director of marketing is going to be measured on certain things that they accomplish in managing that function, where the CEO is going to be worried about other things. So to your point, personalizing how you impact them on those things that are important to them makes a huge difference.
Agreed. So that's good. I mean, any other closing comments you have?
I just want to, take a moment to just say, let's not overcomplicate, right? Let's figure out a way to make these things doable, regardless of what we believe or perceive to be our limitations.
Yeah, something done is better than something you just thought about that was overly complicated.
Yeah, don't let it freeze you like the deer in the headlights, where you're just going to get rammed but
Yeah.
you can't
Mhm.
move.
Mhm.
So move, take that action, learn from it,
Mhm.
and grow, because being in small business is all about learning something new every day and
Mhm.
growing, you know,
Right.
um, and just really take take pleasure in the moment,
Mhm.
create that pleasure for that other person in terms
Yeah.
of building that relationship, and you're going to do awesome.
Yeah. I agree. So until next time, we'll post those links in the chat as we mentioned. So,
Yeah, and feel free to give us your comments and what you enjoyed, what you would have liked us to discuss that we did not.
mhm.
We're here for you.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Amazing. All right.
thank you
Take
guys.
care.
You too.